1. The Exorcist, 1973. The Exorcist is often regarded as one of the most dangerous horror films of all time, primarily due to its ability to evoke a genuine fear of the unknown, the supernatural, and the loss of control. Directed by William Friedkin and based on William Peter Blatty's novel, it tells the story of a young girl, Regan McNeil, who becomes possessed by a demon. Her mother, played by Ellen Burstyn, desperately seeks help from two priests to perform an exorcism. What makes The Exorcist so dangerous isn't just its horrifying scenes of possession, but the psychological impact it has on viewers. The film taps into the universal fear of losing control over one's body and mind, an idea that many viewers can't shake long after the film ends. The portrayal of demonic possession is so visceral and realistic that it left many viewers in a state of shock and, in some cases, terror. People reported fainting in theaters, and the film's disturbing imagery, like Regan's violent and grotesque behavior, has been known to cause nightmares. Furthermore, The Exorcist delves into religious themes and spiritual warfare, making it particularly unsettling for those with strong religious beliefs. The film suggests that there are forces beyond human understanding that can overwhelm and corrupt the innocent, which can cause viewers to question their faith and beliefs. The sense of helplessness and terror is palpable in every frame, making it one of the most enduring and dangerous horror films. 2. A Clockwork Orange, 1971. While not a traditional horror film, Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange remains one of the most dangerous films in terms of its potential to disturb and disturbingly influence its audience. Adapted from Anthony Burgess's novel, the film follows the violent exploits of Alex DeLarge, a young man who leads a gang in committing unspeakable acts of violence, only to be subjected to a brutal form of aversion therapy. What makes A Clockwork Orange so dangerous is its portrayal of extreme violence, sexual assault, and social rebellion, coupled with its unsettling mix of classical music. The film challenges notions of free will, morality, and the nature of evil, asking whether a person who is forcibly conditioned into nonviolence can still be considered truly human. Kubrick's stylistic choices, such as the juxtaposition of disturbing imagery with Beethoven's Ode to Joy, are designed to make the viewer uncomfortable, encouraging them to question the nature of human behavior and the mechanisms that control it. The film's ultra-violence and its unsettling exploration of psychological conditioning made it a controversial work upon its release. It led to the film being banned in some countries and heavily criticized for potentially encouraging real-world violence. The disturbing scenes and the way the film lingers on them leave a long-lasting impression, making it dangerous in the way it challenges societal norms and disturbs the viewer's psyche. 3. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. Tobe Hooper's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is often cited as one of the most influential and dangerous horror films. The film follows a group of teenagers who encounter a family of cannibals, led by the grotesque figure of Leatherface. The sheer rawness and grittiness of the film, shot on a low budget with naturalistic dialogue and performances, contributes to the feeling of real terror. Unlike many horror films of the time, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre doesn't rely on traditional shock tactics or gore, but instead focuses on creating an atmosphere of dread and helplessness. The unsettling sound design, the visceral images of violence, and the relentless tension all make the viewer feel as though they are trapped in this nightmarish world. The most disturbing element is the way the violence is presented not as sensational, but as a brutal, senseless force of nature, which makes it feel all the more terrifying. The film's raw depiction of rural America and the breakdown of societal norms makes it a dangerous exploration of what happens when civilization decays. Leatherface's disturbing behavior and the terrifying family dynamic evoke a sense of primal fear, making the viewer question how far humanity can be pushed before it loses its moral compass. The sense of isolation and powerlessness is palpable throughout the film, making it a truly dangerous experience for those who watch it. The Shining, 1980, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, based on Stephen King's novel, is another film that taps into deep psychological fears. The story of Jack Torrance, a writer who takes a job as a winter caretaker of the haunted Overlook Hotel, gradually losing his sanity and attempting to murder his wife and child, explores themes of isolation, madness, and the supernatural. The film's danger lies in the way it manipulates the viewer's perception of reality. Kubrick uses wide, disorienting shots, unsettling sound design, and a cold, sterile,
disorienting shots, unsettling sound design, and a cold, sterile atmosphere to create a sense of claustrophobia and disconnection from reality. As Jack descends further into madness, the audience begins to question what's real and what's imagined. The labyrinthine hotel becomes a metaphor for the mind, and the more the viewer delves into the film, the more unsettling and dangerous the experience becomes. The gradual unraveling of Jack's mind, coupled with the haunting presence of the hotel, creates a sense of inevitability and despair. The film's most dangerous quality is its ability to creep into the viewer's subconscious. The dread is not in the scares themselves, but in the psychological manipulation that leaves the viewer with an unsettling feeling that persists long after watching. The combination of isolation, supernatural elements, and a slow descent into madness makes The Shining one of the most dangerous films in terms of its long-term psychological impact. 5. Hereditary, 2018. A more recent addition to the list of dangerous horror films, Hereditary is a family tragedy turned supernatural horror that has left audiences both terrified and deeply disturbed. Directed by Ari Aster, the film follows the Graham family as they are haunted by mysterious and increasingly terrifying events following the death of the family matriarch. What sets Hereditary apart is its ability to slowly ramp up the terror, culminating in an emotionally devastating climax. The film's exploration of grief, trauma, and the generational curse that haunts the family creates a deeply personal and psychological horror experience. The sense of inevitability and the weight of inherited suffering adds a layer of existential dread to the supernatural events. Hereditary is dangerous because it exploits not just supernatural fear, but also the fear of family dysfunction, trauma, and the realization that certain things in life are beyond our control. The disturbing imagery, such as the shocking death of a character and the chilling finale, leaves a lasting impact on the viewer's psyche. The horror is deeply emotional, making the terror felt not just in the body, but also in the heart and mind. The film lingers long after the credits roll, forcing viewers to confront uncomfortable truths about family, grief, and the nature of evil. 6. Martyrs, 2008. French horror films have gained a reputation for being some of the most disturbing and dangerous in cinema, and Martyrs is the pinnacle of that genre. Directed by Pascal Laugier, the film is known for its extreme violence, disturbing imagery, and emotional horror. It follows two women, Lucy and Anna, as they try to uncover the truth behind Lucy's horrifying childhood trauma. only to become entangled in a horrific cycle of torture and sacrifice. What makes Martyrs so dangerous is its unflinching depiction of suffering and its exploration of human endurance and transcendence. The film isn't content with simply shocking the viewer. It delves into existential questions about the nature of pain, the pursuit of enlightenment through suffering, and the lengths to which the human spirit can be pushed. The violence is not just for shock value, it serves a philosophical purpose, forcing the viewer to confront uncomfortable truths about the human condition. Martyrs is a film that lingers in the mind long after the viewing experience, not because of the violence itself, but because of the horrifying implications of its central premise. The film poses difficult moral questions and challenges the viewer to think about the nature of pain, suffering, and the search for meaning in a world that often seems cruel and indifferent. Its brutal and unrelenting nature makes it one of the most dangerous horror films, as it leaves viewers emotionally drained and intellectually unsettled. These films are dangerous not because they rely solely on gore or jump scares, but because they manipulate deeper fears and psychological anxieties. They tap into the dark recesses of the human mind and leave viewers grappling with the consequences long after the experience has ended. Whether through supernatural horror, psychological terror, or emotional devastation, these films are designed to not only shock, but to make the audience confront their deepest fears about life, death, and everything in between. Each of these films has the potential to disturb, unsettle, and even traumatize, making them not only dangerous to watch, but also dangerous in the way they challenge our understanding of reality, morality, and the human psyche. 7. Antichrist, 2009. Directed by Lars von Trier, Antichrist is a film that leaves audiences disturbed not just because of its graphic nature, but due to the raw emotional and psychological terror it delivers. The story follows a couple who retreat to a remote cabin in the woods to recover from the grief of losing their child. However, their attempt at healing quickly descends into chaos as the wife, named She, Charlotte Gainsbourg, begins to exhibit increasingly bizarre and dangerous behavior, which is linked to deeper psychological traumas and fears. What makes Antichrist particularly dangerous is the disturbing combination of graphic violence, sexual content, and existential dread. The film explores themes of guilt, despair, the natural world's cruelty, and the darkness inherent in human nature. The violence isn't gratuitous, it's deeply symbolic, meant to shake the viewer and provoke uncomfortable reflections on suffering, loss, and human relationships. The film is notorious for scenes that push the boundaries of what can be shown on screen, including self-mutilation and animal cruelty. But the real horror of Antichrist is psychological. It plays with the audience's perception of reality, forcing them to confront the darkness that resides in every human soul. By the end of the film, viewers are left not with simple fear, but with a profound sense of discomfort, questioning the very nature of human suffering and the destructive potential of grief. 8. The Witch, 2015. Robert Eggers' The Witch is a slow-burning period horror film that explores themes of paranoia, religious fanaticism, and the fear of the unknown. Set in the 1630s New England, it tells the story of a Puritan family who are ostracized from their community and retreat to a remote farm, only to encounter increasingly strange and terrifying events, suggesting the presence of witchcraft. The danger in The Witch is not in its jump scares or gore, but in its unsettling atmosphere and the psychological unraveling of its characters. The sense of isolation, the rigid religious beliefs, and the oppressive fear of sin create a setting in which the supernatural becomes a constant, ever-present threat. The viewer is drawn into the psychological torment of the family, particularly Thomasin, Anya Taylor-Joy, who becomes the target of suspicion and fear. What makes The Witch particularly dangerous is how it manipulates the viewer's perception of reality. Are the supernatural events real, or are they a manifestation of the family's madness and religious paranoia? The film is steeped in historical accuracy, creating a chilling portrayal of a world where fear of evil is more dangerous than the evil itself. The tension is palpable, and the creeping dread of an unstoppable force feels inescapable. The film's ending, both haunting and ambiguous, leaves viewers in a state of lingering fear. It's the kind of movie that sticks with you, making you question the nature of evil and the fragility of human sanity. 9. The Babadook, 2014. Jennifer Kent's The Babadook is a psychological horror film that uses grief and trauma as the central themes. The story follows Amelia, a widowed mother, and her son Samuel, who begins to believe that a dark, sinister figure from a mysterious book called The Babadook is haunting their home. While The Babadook has supernatural elements, the real danger of the film lies in its exploration of psychological and emotional trauma. Amelia's inability to cope with the death of her husband, coupled with her strained relationship with her son, leads to a disturbing unraveling of her mental state. The film plays on the fear of confronting unresolved trauma, depicting how grief can manifest into something monstrous. The Babadook itself is an embodiment of Amelia's repressed emotions and the terror of facing unresolved pain. As she confronts the figure, she is forced to confront the depths of her sorrow, guilt, and anger. The horror here is not external, it's internal, and the real fear stems from Amelia's inability to escape her own mind. What makes this film so dangerous is its ability to tap into the viewer's own fears of loss, motherhood, and the consequences of ignoring one's emotional baggage. The Babadook is a terrifying metaphor for how trauma can take root in the mind and take on a life of its own. The film's chilling climax leaves audiences with an unsettling feeling of unresolved darkness, as the Babadook isn't vanquished, only contained. The Ring, 2002. The Ring, or Ringu in its original Japanese version, is a film that exemplifies the power of atmosphere and slow burn tension. Directed by Gore Verbinski and based on the Japanese horror film Ringu, it tells the story of a cursed videotape that causes anyone who watches it to die in 7 days. While the premise of a cursed videotape sounds bizarre, The Ring works because it taps into the fear of the unknown and the inevitable. The countdown to death, combined with the stray, combined with the strange, unsettling imagery associated with the tape, such as the eerie visuals of a girl climbing out of a television set, creates an overwhelming sense of dread. The curse becomes a metaphor for the inescapable nature of fate. No matter what you do, There's no avoiding the inevitable. The film is dangerous in how it uses the supernatural not just for scares, but to create an existential fear. The terror of the film lies in the viewer's helplessness. Once you've watched the tape, your fate is sealed. The Ring creates a fear that is both psychological and physical, as the looming death approaching the characters builds a tension that keeps the viewer on edge until the final, terrifying conclusion. Additionally, the film's unsettling visuals, haunting soundtrack, and the eerie, disembodied nature of Samara's ghost leave a lasting impact. The imagery from The Ring, the long-haired girl crawling out of the TV, has since become iconic, symbolizing the type of horror that goes beyond just scares. It stays with you, leaving you with a profound sense of unease. 11. The Silence of the Lambs, 1991. Jonathan Demme's The Silence of the Lambs is another film that transcends the traditional horror genre. It's a psychological thriller that features Hannibal Lecter, a brilliant yet sadistic psychiatrist and cannibalistic serial killer who is enlisted by FBI agent Clarice Starling to help catch another serial killer, Buffalo Bill. The film is dangerous because of its deeply unsettling portrayal of human evil and the psychological manipulation between Clarice and Hannibal. Lecter's cold intelligence and terrifying charisma make him one of the most chilling villains in cinematic history. What makes The Silence of the Lambs particularly dangerous is that it not only taps into the fear of violence and crime, but also delves into the complexities of human nature and psychological trauma. The film's exploration of trauma, power dynamics, and the psychology of both the protagonist and antagonist creates a suffocating atmosphere. Clarice's vulnerability and Hannibal's manipulation make for a dangerous emotional roller coaster. The horror here is psychological. It's not just about what's happening in the moment, but about what it reveals about the nature of evil and the human mind. The film's tense cat-and-mouse game, coupled with the memorable performances by Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins, leaves the audience deeply unsettled. The dangerous allure of Hannibal Lecter and the chilling atmosphere of the film make The Silence of the Lambs one of the most iconic and terrifying psychological thrillers of all time. The danger of these films doesn't merely come from the shocks and scares they offer in the moment. It comes from their ability to linger, provoke thought, and challenge deeply held beliefs about humanity, trauma, and the unknown. They force the audience to confront not just external horrors, but the darkness within the mind and spirit. They exploit our deepest fears, often leaving us unsettled, disturbed, and questioning long after we've seen the credits roll. The true danger of horror films like these is how they warp the perception of reality and leave an emotional and psychological scar that can last for years.